Hi, Kevin Coop here, and this is FaceTime with the Content Guy. There was an opinion piece in the Boston Globe the other day, authored by three postgraduate students, that left me simultaneously depressed, vindicated, but even a little hopeful. Two of the authors attend major MBA programs. One of them is at Harvard, and the other one's at Stanford. And they wrote that their courses, I want to make sure I get this right, that their courses, quote, often treat frontline workers and increasingly contractors as an expense to be tolerated instead of as an asset to be valued. Their concerns and contributions are rarely discussed on campus. And when they are, the conversation tends to focus on values-driven leadership or the potential for workforce automation, not the need for a balance of power between executives and workers. In other words, workers are being devalued. Now, this doesn't really surprise me. I've long been making the point here on Morning Newsbeat that I think too many companies treat their frontline employees as if they're a cost and not an asset, which I think increasingly is crazy. I mean, you're a retailer. Who's more important than your frontline employees when it comes to competing not just with the guy down the street, but with online retailers? You're looking to create differential advantages in your stores. Your frontline employees are your best asset. And to treat them just like a cost strikes me as being a little bit nuts. There is no more important job at a retailer these days. Now, this story suggests that we've basically adopted an ideology that places shareholders and executives way above everybody else. And it wasn't always that way, apparently. In reading this story, basically what they said is, at the time of the Great Depression, there were policies that empowered organized labor, made taxation more progressive, and strengthened the social safety net. The feeling then was that the economy would be better for everybody if everybody was moving in the same direction. That includes executives and frontline employees, as well as shareholders for that matter. Was there creative tension? Absolutely, there was creative tension. Those things happen. But, I think it's also fair to say that, unions, they got a little intoxicated with power and probably overstepped, I think, and now we've moved back to the other way. The pendulum has swung way in the other way so that organized labor and labor in general is being devalued. Now, it's interesting. The authors also quote a survey of 10,000 Americans that concluded that 80% of Americans, including 73% of Republicans, say that, quote, companies don't share enough of their success with employees, while 62% they said they distrust corporations. Now, listen, that's not good for the economy. That's not good for business, and it's not good for the culture. Now, if I feel vindicated a little bit, it's sort of because I've been making this point for a long time on Morning Newsbeat, albeit without academic credentials and the kind of intellectual rigor that they bring to it. When you think about it, last week's FaceTime, which was from Dorothy Lane Market, talking about how important the cashiers are in creating a great atmosphere in the store that differentiates it from everybody else, that's about the same thing. It's about the power of the frontline employee to define and differentiate a retail experience. So I'm a little hopeful because these MBA students, they see the problem and they're addressing it. Now, they write something really important here, and I hope there's a lot more where they came from. Business schools must change their culture to one where the nature of the executive-worker relationship can be debated. How can we, as future shareholders and managers, restore dignity to and share power with frontline workers? What are the human consequences of hiring workers as poorly paid contractors instead of employees? How can we adjust the teaching of accounting, investment, and operations so that students are less likely to reduce labor to a dehumanized input? If MBA students don't engage with these questions, we risk blindly propelling another economic crisis. And I tell you one thing, I read them and I'm saying to myself, this is something we got to focus more on this summer when I'm teaching at Portland State University. They make a persuasive point. We have to talk about employees being an asset, not a cost. Anyway, that's what's on my mind this morning. And as always, I want to hear what's on your mind.